الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الخلق أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. Dear respected brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to this new episode of this program where we are discussing the basic tools of understanding Islam or for understanding Islam. In the previous episode, we confirmed or we concluded that there are three main steps that every single one of us needs in order to understand and implement anything in his life or in her life. We concluded last episode by giving this example. If a person had certain illness and he went to the doctor will check that illness, and then the doctor will write a prescription, a treatment for the person, and he might give him certain guidelines. Don't do this, you need to do this, eat this, avoid this kind of diet or food, something like this. So once the doctor gave the correct information to the person needs to what? Needs to understand those information correctly. And then after that, it is upon the person to put those guidelines or this kind of a treatment into practice correctly. Now, once we understand those basic steps, correct source of information, followed by correct understanding of those correct information, followed by the last step, which is what? Correct implementation of the correct understanding of those correct information. Once we understand those basic steps, we can identify where we go wrong. Take the example of the treatment. If the person who went to the doctor, the person in the example we just gave you now, he tried to follow the guidelines of the doctor and he started to take the treatment. The doctor, for example, told him, take this tablet after or half an hour after your food. And then the person started to take the tablet immediately after the food. Obviously, this kind of treatment will not lead to the proper consequences, to the right result. And if this person went to the doctor and he told the doctor that you gave me wrong information, will that be correct? No, it will not be correct, because the person did not implement or did not correctly implement what the doctor told him. So where did we go wrong? Or where did this person go wrong? This person went wrong in the last stage, which is what? The stage of implementation. He cannot accuse the doctor that the doctor does not understand anything, or the doctor gave him the wrong information. It is upon the person. He implemented or she implemented it wrongly. Let me give you another example. You know the example of the camera. I bought a camera in order to use it, and I want to start using it. The camera is made by Sony or JVC. Of course, I'm not giving promotion for any kind of those cameras, but these are the brands that came to my head. Anyway, let us say ABC. So I bought ABC camera, and with the camera, the manual comes. So it is the correct manual. But the manual of the camera was written in Chinese or Japanese. I do not understand Japanese. So I start to figure out through maybe the diagrams, the photos, how the camera operates. So I started to use this information in order to run the camera or to use the camera. So I implemented what I understood from the correct manual, which is the correct source of information. Now, if something goes wrong, shall I accuse what? Shall I accuse the camera that the camera is bad? Shall I accuse the manual that the manual was incorrect? Or what? Where did I go wrong? I think every one of you will admit that I went wrong in what? In understanding the correct source. So despite that the source was the correct one, I understood that source wrongly. Why? Because it is not in a language that I am aware of. So if I want to understand that source correctly, I should refer to what? Or I should learn how to read Chinese or Japanese, or I should get someone who understands Japanese or Chinese and then have the accurate translation of what has been said. And then I can use it, or I can try to understand it properly. And then once I understood it properly, I can implement it. Again, I have to be careful. I have to implement it properly. So I think the matter is clear now. So please let us remember, you need to get the correct information or the correct sources and understand them correctly and then implement them correctly. Let me just give one more example before we move to the next part. Imagine that I bought, imagine this camera, the ABC camera. And this ABC camera, for whatever reason, it did not come up with a manual. Or they said, just go to the website and download the manual. So this ABC camera is, let us say, version 2.3 camera. So I went to the ABC website and I downloaded 6.5 camera, the version 6.5. So I took it and I started to read it and I started to implement what I understood from that manual. And then it did not function properly. Then I will be amazed. Whom shall I accuse? Shall I accuse my implementation of what I understood? Or shall I accuse my understanding? Or what? In fact, I went wrong in the first place, in the first step, which is what? I did not get the correct information in the first place. I got the wrong information. The source was not the right source for me. I got 6 point something while my camera is 3 point something. So I need to get the right source. So we need to get the right source, the correct source, and understand it correctly and then implement it correctly. Now, what has this to do with Islam? Subhanallah, my dear respected brothers and sisters, we follow the same procedure in Islam. We follow the same methodology or the same process in understanding Islam. If we want to understand Islam correctly, first of all, we need to what? We need to get the correct sources of Islam. And once we have the correct sources of Islam, we need to move to the second step, which is what? Understanding those sources correctly. And once we have the correct understanding of those correct sources, we have to implement them correctly as well. Same. Let me give you an example. Let us take this scenario. A brother called Samir and his wife is called Samira. So Samir and Samira, they went to a supermarket and they are living in a non-Muslim country. And Samir and Samira, they want to buy meat from that supermarket in that non-Muslim country. So let us say that it is a Christian country, and within that Christian country there are atheists. Also, in that Christian country, there are many other faiths, as well as Muslims. So they went to that supermarket and they want to buy some meat. So Samir and Samira approached to the meat section and they took some meat, or Samir took some meat. His wife Samira, and this is always the case that the sisters or the wives are more careful about halal or haram than their husbands. Their husbands sometimes they do not care. They do not put that much attention. So Samira told Samir, how come you buy from this? He said to her that, what's wrong? This is halal. This is halal. Samira told him, no, this is haram. You cannot buy this meat because this meat is haram for us. He said to her, come on, Samira, how can you consider this meat as haram? She said, it is dead. It is dead. He said, what do you mean by it is dead? She said to him, Allah Jalla wa Ala considered dead meat as haram. Allah Jalla wa Ala says in the Quran, حُرِّمَتْ عَلَيْكُمُ الْمَيْتَةِ. Allah Jalla wa Ala says, حُرِّمَتْ عَلَيْكُمُ الْمَيْتَةِ. Mayta, dead meat, is unlawful for you, is haram for you. So now Samir got shocked. Now he doesn't know how to answer this because she quoted for him a verse from the Quran. Now we are coming to the end of this episode. Insha'Allah, in the next episode, we will continue the story of Samir and Samira. Why are we narrating that story? In order to understand the basic steps of understanding Islam. Insha'Allah, see you in the next episode. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.